Hello, this is Dee Dee Bridgewater.
Good morning, Dee Dee Bridgewater. It's Dave Lawrence at Hawaii Public Radio.
Good morning, Dave Lawrence at Hawaii Public Radio. How are you?
I'm very good, and thank you for asking. You doing good yourself?
I can't complain.
That's a good thing. God bless you, and
And God bless you, too.
appreciate it. And you got a good signal? You can hear me all right?
I hear you just fine.
And same here. It's like we're practically in the same place. All right, let me just put a short intro on it. Dee Dee's Feathers, still the most current release from you, right?
Yes, it is.
Fantastic. All right, hang on 1 minute, young lady. I'll bring you in here. It is member-supported Hawaii Public Radio and all things considered HPR1. I'm Dave Lawrence, and thank you for listening. Today we've got a legendary artist generously taking some time for us, and it's a real treat. Multiple Grammy Award winner, Tony Award winner, Laurence Olivier Award winner, NPR vet, too. Hosted her own show. And a person who's been giving back on a global level, being associated with the United Nations as an ambassador for food and agriculture. Dee Dee's Feathers is Dee Dee Bridgewater's latest. She's in town for a week at the Blue Note through Sunday, and a great pleasure to get her on the phone. Thank you so much, Dee Dee, and welcome.
You are so welcome. I'm very happy to be on the show with you, so I thank you for inviting me, Dave.
You are welcome, and I'm giving you a big hug, and I'm thinking about all the folks who are excited that you've got a number of dates in town at this new venue.
Yeah.
And for folks who are considering taking in one of these shows, if you can just try to explain this to me. When you have a legacy like yours, explain what goes into putting a set list together and perhaps how Dee Dee's Feathers works into that.
Well, first of all, I'm coming to Hawaii and to the Blue Note with a young band that is led by the trumpet player Theo Croker, and he calls his band Dark Funk with a V instead of the A in dark, okay, because he's young, okay. They are some very fine young musicians that I've been mentoring, and so with these young gentlemen, I just have them kind of going all over the map. So we can go into any one of my recorded efforts and pull a song or two out. What we have been doing, because I have been taking them around the globe with me for the last almost 3 years now, actually, Theo and his bandmates, became quite fascinated with material that I recorded as a guest artist on other people's albums. And so we've incorporated some of those songs in the shows that we do. So they are lesser-known songs, or the audience members would have to know the artists that I'd perform those songs with. So I'm trying to do with Theo and Dark Funk a more contemporary take on jazz, giving them some place to kind of do their improv and present themselves and their talents to the audience members as well. We will probably throw in a number or two or three from Dee Dee's Feathers, but we're going to be at the Blue Note doing 2 shows a night, so that's 12 shows. So we're going to probably be going all over the place. I don't like to repeat if I don't have to. So, yeah, we'll probably be visiting, besides Dee Dee's Feathers, we will visit the different CDs of mine. The only CDs of mine that I have not introduced these gentlemen to is my Kurt Weill CD, This Is New, and my French CD, J'ai des Amours. But I might pull them aside and we might rehearse a number or two so we can throw something in from those albums as well. But it's just, it's about having fun. It's about doing the music in a way that is accessible for the audience members so that they can have fun and getting our groove on, because I like to move. I like to party. So usually when I do the Blue Note in New York City, it's just one big party, and we always have a line outside the door because people know we're going to party, and I'm going to be naughty a little bit, and we're just going to have a good time. I don't know how naughty I can be on this trip because my grandchildren are coming, so we'll see.
Well, that's great, that family sort of legacy, I guess, extending it with the kids. And that's been you've been so blessed. I guess it's a good way to get into something I've been curious about. To have, I don't have any kids, and when I'm studying up on you a little bit before this, you've got these, not just children, but you have incredibly talented, accomplished children. And do I have the names right? Tulani, China, and Gabrielle? Mm-hmm. And so I marvel at how your kids turned out. And I'm just curious now, you got grandkids coming to the show. You're going to try to put on the best face you can for them. Any insight into what helped the ingredient process of just having your kids turn out like with such pride?
I'm sorry to laugh. There's no ingredient. There's no ingredient. There's all of this talk about, being able to follow books and manuals and all this kind of stuff to raise your kids. Each kid is their own individual self. So what I learned is that I had to treat each of my children as a complete individual. You're also speaking to a woman who was married 3 times, and so each child is from that particular marriage. So they are 3 halves. Half sisters and brothers, but they think of themselves as complete sisters and brothers because I am their common denominator, and that's just the way I feel. I just try to watch each of my kids and lead them down the path that I felt was good for them based on their personalities and the things that they liked. My oldest daughter, Tulani, is my donager. That means she is my daughter and manager. And we've been working together since 1999. So we have a wonderful relationship, a business relationship that we have been able to separate from a personal relationship. So when we do work, she calls me and Theo and the band, they all call me Boss Lady now. I call Tulani Boss Lady too. And, in the evenings when I go to visit them or on the weekends, I'm her mother and my kids' grandmother. My grandkids, I call them my kids because they're my kids. But my second daughter, China, whose last name is Moses, she lives in Paris, France. We moved to Paris when China was 7, and I left in 2007, as that's where she grew up. That's where she decided to stay. And my daughter, China, is extremely independent. And so I taught her things based on that independence and just tried to steer her in areas that she seemed interested in. She's had an amazing career in France. She's very well known as a TV presenter. She was the face of MTV for 10 years.
Right.
And she's also singing, and she's recently in the last 2 years made forays into acting and actually did a readaptation of a musical that I did do in Paris, playing the role of Sally Bowles in Cabaret. And she produces herself, much like her mother. She's my child that watched everything I did and then did it herself.
Mm.
I had told her at one point, Monopoly is not a game. Monopoly is a business. You want to try and own some apartments. You want to try and own things. So she owns 3 apartments in Paris. And she just recently got married, and she has a wonderful husband, and she's working on changing up her musical direction because she's taking that being free from me and not being stuck in one mold in terms of her music, and she's taken that to heart. So she's working on a very fine project, and she writes music. She plays guitar. My oldest daughter plays, all 3 of my children play guitar. And but China also is very hands-on in the studio and knows how to run a board and all of that kind of stuff. So she's a step ahead of me in that area. And then my youngest son is, he just turned 24. His name is Gabriel. His last name is Durand. And he is literally half French. His father is French. So he was born and raised until his teenage years in Paris, France, and outside of Paris. And he plays guitar and he writes music. And he's right now off trying to find himself and doesn't want to be bothered with hearing from me. So I don't really know what he's doing. I just know he's in Boston, Massachusetts.
I spent a great deal of time there. It's a wonderful town to.
It is a wonderful town, except in the winters. I don't like the cold.
Oh, very good call there. But with the great Freddie Taylor and Scullers and the Regatta Bar, it's just it's got some nice.
Yeah, they're both wonderful venues, and I've played at both.
I know you have.
Not in recent years.
I know you have. I've seen you at Scullers. I used to live in Boston for a long time.
Oh, okay.
So I saw you there a long time ago. You know, when we're talking about your kids, it's a great lead into a lot of cats who've been on the show from a variety of genres of music. Mm-hmm. One of the things that you've touched on in discussing your children so eloquently was the impact that things have early on in their life. Doesn't necessarily mean they're going to follow the path of their parent or even follow the influences that they may be exposed to. But when I look at yourself and I think about some really early exposure to jazz through your father, it's neat. One of your first musical ventures, a R&B trio. You're just 16. If you can kind of just describe for yourself after thinking about your kids, some of the way that your father and the world around you and other nurturing forces brought these influences into your life.
Well, we were straight up R&B, and we called ourselves the Iridescents, and we were trying to model ourselves after all of the new groups that had been signed to Motown Records, because I grew up in the now infamous city of Flint, Michigan.
I know that.
And Flint is having terrible, terrible, terrible problems. So at the time that I was a youngster in Flint, my father really didn't get involved in what I was trying to do musically with my little trio until I had to disband the trio because they didn't want to rehearse because they discovered boys, and I was really quite serious about my singing and wanting to perform. My father, I entered a couple of talent contests because we used to have those back in the day, and I won one, and my prize was that I got to sing at a club in Flint called the Motor City. And my father had to be my chaperone because I was 16 and wasn't allowed to be in the club until I performed. So I had to sit in the kitchen, and then when my name was called, my father escorted me out. And then he introduced me to a man who had a quintet that he was involved in, and that man's name is Sherman Mitchell. He's still alive. So I started to sing with Sherman Mitchell and with my father in the band, and then sometimes Sherman would set up a trio for me to perform with, and I started just performing around Flint. When I went to Michigan State, when I decided that it was the university I was going to go to, my father had a dear friend that was working on his doctorate degree there, whose name was Andy Goodrich. And he was from Memphis, where I was born, and he and my father had taught at the two main African-American high schools there. So Andy Goodrich then took me under his wing, and I became a part of his quintet, which was the Andy Goodrich Quintet +1. I was the +1. So that was the involvement that my father gave me. When I had told him I wanted to take piano lessons while I was in high school, he said, "Girls don't play instruments, girls sing." He came from that generation.
Right.
So I never, as a result of that, I never learned an instrument. And that kind of, I don't know, it always has kind of nagged at me. But, it is what it is, and life is what it is, and then we make our choices. So I chose to then concentrate on the singing and left playing an instrument alone. So he was always there to offer the support or to give me some guidance, but he never really got involved in what I was doing, actually on a physical level. I had dreamed of us having a band together, a father and daughter. I had a crush on my father when I was a teenager. I thought he was so handsome. And when my girlfriends were wearing their boyfriends' sweaters to school, which was our thing in the 60s, I was wearing my daddy's sweaters to school. And when their boyfriends would pick them up, I had my daddy pick me up. So I really had a crush on my father when I was a teenager. And, that's kind of how that went. There was a lot of jazz music played in my house, a lot of jazz LPs, and then my mother, of course, was into singers. They did not have a large vocabulary of music, but, I listened to everything that they played, and then the radio was very important when I was growing up. So I listened to the local R&B radio station, which was WAMM or Wham, and then I could pick up a station out of Detroit, whose call letters I forget. And then in the evenings, I was able to, after my parents went to bed, I would tune into a station out of Memphis called WDIA. If I positioned my antenna a particular way and put the foil on it and put it in a certain part of my bedroom, I could get it. And it was horrible. It wasn't a good signal. It was a lot of static. But I would listen to this radio station, WDIA. So it was mostly, that was the first African-American radio station in the country, I found out. And most of the artists that they played were from Stax Records. And I'm actually about to do a recording project based around all of this that I've just told you about Memphis and WDIA. So, that was my influence as a little girl. And then, of course, the Motown. Motown was huge for us.
So beautiful. So beautiful that the radio played that role in your life. Funny with the antenna, and it brings back memories of...
Oh, yeah, honey, putting that, making them little rabbit ears on it, and, try not to get it too heavy so that the antenna would just completely fall over. And now I'm using a transistor radio now, okay? So I'm sure that the listeners are like, what is she talking about? Yeah, so I had my little transistor radio.
You mentioned Michigan State and your time there, and when folks read about you, they can find out that you got to do a tour of the Soviet Union, as it was called back then in 1969. And anyone who has followed your career knows that international success, you've mentioned it yourself, you've got children that have grown up abroad because of your international lifestyle. Do you look back and think that did that first engagement abroad, did that have some influence on your desire to look at the world as sort of your oyster?
You know what, Dave? I've always had a fascination with the world and living outside of the United States. When I was 7, I told my parents that I was going to grow up and I was going to move to Paris, France, and I was going to be, and I always use these words, an internationally well-respected jazz singer. Now, I don't know at 7 where that came from, but it has come to pass. My dream has been realized. So I always wanted to travel, and I always said the good thing about Flint for me was it made me want to get out of the city and travel, because it was an industrial city built on General Motors and AC spark plugs at that time, a pretty flat city, and I just, I didn't want to work in the factories. In fact, when I was a teenager and I went to get a job, some of my girlfriends got summer jobs working in the factory on the assembly lines. When I went and put in an application, they told me I was too intelligent to work on the assembly lines, and told me that they didn't have any job offerings in the office. So I then went and found myself a job as a secretary working for a land purveyor.
Unbelievable.
and I also was a candy striper at our local hospital. And so my path separated as a teenager from my girlfriend, and it was just, through happenstance. My mother had always told me that I should learn something that I could make money off of, learn a trade. And so she was a secretary, so she told me you should learn secretarial work. So I was always able to supplement any income I had when I first started my career doing temp jobs as a secretary. But I always prided myself in being excellent in whatever I did, so every temp job that I got, they wanted to hire me as full-time, or they wanted to put me in a training program to become a junior executive when I took jobs at General Motors. So, yeah, they always saw this other potential in me. So I think the thing that we can take away from that is I always like to give 100%, and I always take on whatever the job is and give it my all. I always give 100%. I was always trying to figure out a better way to do whatever job was that I was hired to do. It's interesting.
Well, I mean, that has, when you talk about your being 7 and saying you want to be an internationally well-respected jazz artist, I mean...
Yeah, and well-respected was really important in my mind. It's interesting.
Well, I mean, you talk about doing hard work, though. It seems like there's a real... somehow you knew that to get that goal to happen was probably going to require what you just said, that when you took an approach to something, that it would be at a Laurence Olivier award-winning or Tony award-winning level. And on that, before I wrap it up with you, because I really am fascinated to get to talk to you, I'm appreciative of your time. And I think about Lena Horne played Glinda the Good Witch in the movie, but it was you who had that role in The Wiz on Broadway. And where's that fit into your cherished memories? And if you can talk about the satisfaction and maybe some of the great experiences of getting to perform on stage like that and have it be something that turned into such success.
Well, doing The Wiz on Broadway, that was my first really serious theatrical venture. I had understudied the role of Billie Holiday in an off-Broadway show that was done in Brooklyn. But to have had that experience at that particular point, hold on a minute. Shush. I'm sorry. That's my dog who, when I get on the phone, then wants to play.
No worries.
And starts talking to me because I'm on the phone and because we had been playing, and I'm not dealing with him. So, but doing that particular play, we who did it were so blessed because we had a producer in Ken Harper who was the main producer. The financial producer was 20th Century Fox. But Ken Harper had such a love of theater and wanted this show to succeed so well that he brought in people to teach us, because most of us were novices. We'd not done theater. To work with us we had a makeup artist that would actually spend time with each and every member of the show to show us how to do our makeup for our characters. And he would come and he would correct us, and he helped, he would buy all of the material we needed. Today, if you do a show, you've got to get your own, you got to figure out your own face. You don't get that luxury. The same with the hair. We had a hair person that would take care of our hair and show us how we needed to do it, what we needed to do if we had to wear a wig. The woman that was in charge of wardrobe worked with us on taking care of our costumes, showing us how to, making us aware that we needed to bring things in as soon as there was a tear. It was about maintaining a costume as opposed to wearing it until it wears out, maintaining it so that it will last. My costume, my original costume, is now in the Smithsonian Institute.
Nice.
Jeffrey Holder was originally the costume designer, and the man that I eventually married, Gilbert Moses, was the director. And the show that stands today is still Gilbert Moses' show, although Jeffrey Holder got the credit. George Faison, who did the choreography, he worked with the principals who didn't dance. He had us go to dance classes. I mean, so we had a kind of theatrical upbringing that was really unique. And all of the things that I learned from the 2.5 years that I did the Wiz, I've been able to carry over into every musical and dramatic production that I've ever done. That is something that is very rare today. Very, very rare today. My most recent theatrical experience was doing an off-Broadway show based on Billie Holiday that was called Lady Day, the musical. And I was able to go in and to work with the other people that were involved in the show to help them, you know, with their makeup, with, you know, just different things, and to show them what they needed to do based on my first experience. So that first experience made such an indelible impression on me that I've been able to take that with me wherever I go. And it also spills into my performing as a singer.
Oh, I can imagine.
I'm a very theatrical performer. I find it boring to go and see a singer. In fact, I don't go to hear singers because they drive me crazy. Because they just stand there and they sing, and I'm just like, okay. There's not a lot of interaction between the singer and the musicians, and that's not my kind of singing.
We are blessed that the experiences that they shaped you, and it's really a powerful story, an example of, and then being able to utilize it, like you said, throughout the rest of your career.
Yeah, and I've been able to also share it with musicians. You know, the musicians that I've worked with have become better performers because they see me performing and they see the reaction of the audience. And so they've gone on. I've had them email me and say, thanks, Mama, for, you know, showing me how to, you know, interact with an audience. Thank you. Thank you for showing me it's okay to, if I feel it and I want to move while I'm blowing my horn, I can do that too. So I think that, you know, once you've learned something and once you've had experiences, you can share those experiences with anyone, whether they're in your line of work or outside of it. I've had workshops where I've talked to people that have come to my workshops because they've heard that I will talk to anybody, where I've been able to take the disciplines that I use in my work and I've been able to share with them how to use that in their line of work outside of music, and how life is just one big jazz run. It's all about improvising. It's all about, you know, improvisation, because we will set a goal for ourselves to do things in a day, and something will come along that will take us away from that. What are we doing? We're improvising. It's about, and so what I say, the beauty in improvisation is you've got your structure, you've got your A, you've got your B, you've got your lines that you have to touch. It's like a map. So you start out at A and you go to B, and then maybe you have to, you know, you do a little improvisation, but you're going to come back to B or C, whatever it is that you all have decided is going to be your roadmap until you get to the end. So the main point is that you are going to arrive at that end goal. You may have detours. Those are improvisations. But you've got your end goal in sight, and you're going to get there. It's like playing football.
It's also like listening to a 7-year-old girl who's determined to be a well-respected jazz singer, and it just turns out you're saying you're a very goal-oriented person from day one.
Well, maybe so. I mean, I never thought of that. Thank you, Dave.
That's what it sounds like if you were to put some...
I am goal-oriented. I do, and I'm a firm believer in doing things, you know, when you feel those things, because I believe that things have to come from inside of you so that it can be something that is true for you. So I had a huge break in my recording career the last 5 years until I put out this Dee Dee's Feathers, which was not intended to be a commercial release. It would have been 6 or 7 years. I was trying to do a blues project and could never seem to get it off the ground. So I was dry for 5 years. And I'm now working on, actually I'm going to be working on 2 projects kind of simultaneously. I want to get the second project together so that I can just go in and do it after I finish the first project. But, I had a dry spell, artistically speaking. I didn't know what I wanted to record because it's easy just to put out a record. But for me, that's like cheating. I have to do material that I believe in. I have to, on my musical journey, I have to go in a direction where I've had a vision and I've decided, okay, I got to go there now.
I like that. It's a lot more than just maintaining a brand. And you see so many artists, they get into a rut where there's all that pressure because it becomes a business. I mean, once it becomes so successful, you've got so many payrolls running on it that kind of motivation changes it. And I'll leave you with this, just a quote that you put out on your Facebook the other day, and I just think it's neat and it fits into all the things that you were talking about. You quoted the great MLK, and he said, and you repeated it, "We must rapidly begin the shift from a thing-oriented society." And it's such a true statement about escaping materialism and some of the deeper, more profound things that sometimes they go right by us and we don't realize that we're in the middle of it. And
we've really gotten caught up in the things. If we look at the presidential campaign, it's become a thing. The presidency has become a thing. It's sad to say.
It's a strange thing, the material, the way that stuff creeps in. And when my mom and my grandma passed on me within a couple months of each other in 2013, as painful as it's been, it has helped me to see so many better things in life and to appreciate, like you said, that's why I brought up your quote, because there's so many more important things than objects and possessions, and there's just a deeper current. I hope when you're in town, if it's at all possible, if you'd be willing to do a follow-up, I'd love to come over there to the Blue Note and just record a short conversation with you.
I'd love that, Dave. I would absolutely love that.
It would mean a lot to me, and I'll work out with the PR people to make that happen when it's convenient. Do you mind
Absolutely.
Do you mind doing a real short ID for me? Is that okay, Dee Dee, before I let you go?
I don't mind doing a short ID for you.
I appreciate it. I really do.
Aloha, this is Dee Dee Bridgewater, and you're listening to my friend Dave Lawrence on member-supported Hawaii Public Radio.
It's fantastic. I really appreciate it, and I'll get in touch with your folks. We'll make something happen. I'm giving you a huge hug, and I hope this was all right. Was this somewhat entertaining? Did it keep you?
Of course it was. It was wonderful.
All right.
Thank you. We talked about things that now have my little brain going,
Yeah,
like goal-oriented. I never thought of myself as a goal-oriented person. And, you've given me some food for thought, so thank you.
You are welcome. And I'm giving you a big hug, too. I hope you can feel it.
I'm giving you a big hug back.
And
I am very excited to be coming. And you know what? I've never been on Waikiki Beach.
Well,
I don't know this, so I'm really excited.
Globe traveler like you, adding another notch to the list. It's exciting.
I am so excited. I've been calling friends and trying to get them to come to Hawaii for this week that I'm there. And I'm looking at it as a vacation, because singing for me is not a job. It's fun. It's a vacation, and we get to go and have fun at night and be paid for it. So my daughter and my son-in-law and my grandkids are coming. And,
oh, wow.
Yeah, I've been working on my travel agent, who's a dear friend. I'm like, and I just talked to a girlfriend, and she's like, I need someplace to go. I said, well, I'm going to Hawaii. So she's calling me back.
It's fantastic.
Yeah. So I'm quite excited. I've only been on Oahu just to visit a girlfriend who has a home there. Oh. I've never explored the island. I've never just I've never done anything except go and hang out at her house.
Well, don't invite too many people or you'll just be busy hanging out with your friends all the time.
Well, I can slip away, and my friends are all grown-ups. So the beauty with grown-ups is you can say, okay, I'm doing this, you do that.
Nice.
And that's good.
Well, it'll be great to see you, and please travel safe.
It'll be great for me, too. I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to meeting you.
God bless you. Me, too.
Okay. God bless you, Dave.
You be safe, Dee Dee, and we'll be seeing each other soon.
Okay. The same to you.
Take care. Aloha.
Okay. Aloha. Bye.
Bye.